For any major nation to turn to a foreign coach is always an admission of failure. Apart from England, the only other country to turn to a foreign coach after winning the World Cup is Uruguay, which has a population of just 3.5 million. They have had the Argentinians Daniel Passarella in 1999 till 2001 and Marcelo Bielsa from 2023 to today. And now, five-time World Cup winners Brazil have their first foreign coach. And it might seem somewhat scandalous, but for Brazil, it reconnects them to a tradition that once made them great. It is no secret that the Brazilian coaching has been in retreat for some time. The situation is pretty bad. The Brazilian league is by far the wealthiest league in South America, and it also shows. Brazilian sides have won the last 6 Copa Libertadores, yet 4 of the last 6 Brazilian titles have been won by Portuguese coaches. Otto Gloria, who led Benfica to the 1968 European Cup final and lost to Manchester United, remains the only Brazilian ever to have been successful at elite club level in Europe. But what's the reason for this? After all this wealth and sporting culture, why can't Brazil produce coaches that can operate at the elite level? Ancelotti's arrival means no national team in the South American Confederation is managed by a Brazilian. Among 10, 6 CONMEBOL sides are managed by Argentinians. It may be Brazil who have the money, but it's Argentina who have the culture and the expertise. The legend may have it that Brazil Joga bonitoed their way to 3 World Cups between 1958 and 1970 by grabbing some brilliant individuals off the beach. But that's furthest from the truth. When defeat in final game at Uruguay at the Maracana had cost them a World Cup that had seemed theirs, Brazil prepared for the 1958 World Cup like no side had ever prepared before. A delegation led by the national team's doctor, Hilton Gosling, assessed 25 sites in Sweden before choosing a training base in Hindos, a resort near Gothenburg. Although attempts to have a local nudist colony closed off for the duration of the tournament failed, all 28 female members of the staff at the team hotel were laid off for the duration of the tournament to reduce distractions. The players are put through a rigorous fitness regime, while their backroom staff included not only Gosling, but also a dentist and a psychologist. The Juscelino Kubitschek government at the time, which provided much of the funding, was thoroughly technocratic as it sought to achieve 50 years of development in 5. In the 1930s, there was a great influence of a wave of Hungarian coaches, missionaries of the coffee house tradition, most notably Isidor Dori Kushner. He had led by the 1950s the development of the 4-2-4, and with it the first form of zonal marking. In 1957, the great Hungarian Bela Gutmann was managing Sao Paulo. Assistant to the great Bela Gutmann at the time was Vicente Feola. Vicente Feola then ended up leading Brazil in the 1958 World Cup. The 4-2-4 not only gave Brazil an extra man at the back when out of possession, but also allowed their fullbacks to advance. The left back, Nilton Santos in particular. This offered a wide variety of attacking angles. This was something radical and new. European observers in Sweden were enchanted by this new form of football, and in the years that followed, almost everybody started experimenting with the back four. By the 1962 World Cup, however, Brazil had already moved on, withdrawing Mario Zagallo to create an asymmetric 4-3-3. Brazil were at the cutting edge and remained so in 1970 as Zagallo, by then the coach, put together a compact and balanced team that in effect contained 4 number 10s and a wide forward. You might be wondering that how does all this Hungarian influence being at the heart of the Brazilian golden age mean that by the appointment of Carlo Ancelotti, an Italian, Brazil is returning to its roots? Let me take you on a journey through the corridors of memory, through Europe, through time. Long before the yellow shirts danced across the Maracana, a different kind of magic was being written. In Budapest, in the cafes along the Danube, football was being imagined. Ideas brewed like coffee. Among them stood Isidor Kushner, a coach of vision, shaping a young player at MTK Budapest FC in the years after the First World War. That player was Lajos Seichler, a devoted student of the Budapest school. Seichler took those lessons abroad to Norrköping in Sweden, then to Milan in Italy, where he found a pupil of his own, Niels Lidholm. Lidholm learned not just tactics, but elegance. He learned about patient ball possession style of play with fluid positioning to disrupt opponents' defensive shape. This tactic became known as a spider's web, and when the time came, he passed that wisdom forward. Generations later, a new student arrived under his care, a midfielder with curiosity in his eyes and patience in his touch. For 5 years, they worked together in Rome, master and disciple, before their paths diverged. The student went on to Milan, where a new revolution awaited under Arrigo Sacchi. There, his education was completed, and now, decades later, he stands at the helm of Brazil, the circle complete, the lineage unbroken. From the cafes of Budapest to the beaches of Rio, from Kushner to Schischler to Lidholm, and finally to Carlo Ancelotti. And this is how, with Carlo Ancelotti, Brazilian football has returned to its